The night my daughter hit 104.7, everything else in my life went quiet. At 3 a.m., I stared at the thermometer, hoping I read it wrong. I didn't. Lily was burning up, barely conscious, mumbling things that made no sense. Her body trembled in my arms. I didn't even think. I grabbed her and ran. I rushed her to the ER barefoot. No coat, just a sweatshirt thrown over my pajamas. They took one look at her and moved fast. Within minutes, she was in pediatric ICU. I signed paperwork with shaking hands while nurses spoke in short, clinical sentences I couldn't fully follow. That was the beginning of the worst week of my life. I remember the sharp smell of antiseptic, the steady beeping of machines, the way doctors avoided eye contact when they explained what a systemic infection could do to a child her age. I sat beside Lily's bed and watched her chest rise and fall, waiting, hoping, measuring progress in tiny, almost invisible changes. Time stopped making sense. Hours blended into days. But what echoed the loudest was the silence. I told my family everything. I texted from the hospital hallway. I posted in the group chat. No one replied, not even a thumbs up. These were the same people I dropped everything for. When my brother had kidney stones, I brought him smoothies every day for a week. When my mom had her hysterectomy, I slept on her couch for 3 nights straight to help with meals and medication. I drove them to appointments, covered emergencies, sent money when they needed it. And now, when my daughter might not make it, they said nothing. Actually, that's not entirely true. On day 4 in the ICU, my phone buzzed. I grabbed it so fast I dropped my charger. It was the family chat. I opened it immediately. The message was from my mom. "Hey, Em, your brother could really use $7,000 for his honeymoon. You're doing well, right?" That was it. No, "How's Lily?" No, "We're thinking of you." Just a request for money, $7,000, for a honeymoon. I stared at the screen like it was written in another language. I didn't reply. I didn't reread it. I closed the app. Then I went into my contacts and blocked them. Mom, Dad, my brother. No message, no explanation. I just cut them off. The next morning, while I fed Lily ice chips and listened to a nurse explain recovery timelines, my phone started buzzing again. Missed call, then another, and another. By noon, there were 6. On the 7th, I answered. My dad's voice came through sharp and annoyed. "You think you're better than us now?" I stood in the hallway between vending machines, holding the phone, pressing my other hand against my temple. I said nothing. "You're ignoring your own mother over a text. You're overreacting. That's your brother. That's your family. Don't forget where you came from." I hung up. I didn't say a single word. That was the moment everything changed. They thought I'd come around, that I'd soften. They didn't understand that something inside me had broken. And once it broke, there was no fixing it. What they didn't realize was that I had receipts, years of them leaning on me. I had been their backup plan, their emergency contact, their unpaid therapist, their babysitter, their emotional dumping ground. And now I had nothing left to give, just silence. The same silence they gave me while Lily was fighting for her life. And they were about to learn what that meant. Lily made it. 9 days in ICU, 2 more in a step-down unit, then a week at home before she could walk without wobbling. She lost weight, slept in short bursts, held on to me like I might disappear if she let go. While she recovered, I stayed quiet. I ignored 4 email threads from my mom titled, "We need to talk." I declined my brother's Venmo request for just $3,000, then if 7 is too much. I didn't listen to my dad's voicemails. One transcript caught my attention, though. "You can't just abandon your family because you're in a mood." I didn't delete it. I screenshotted it. The funny thing about stepping back is that it makes people panic, especially when you've always been the one who says yes. I had been their safety net. When my brother maxed out his credit card on crypto, I paid off the last $900. When my mom got scammed buying fake concert tickets, I called the seller, pretended to be a lawyer, and got her money back. I even paid my dad's property taxes once because the bank was being difficult. They called me selfless, said I was a lifesaver. Now I was the villain, unreasonable. And still, not one of them asked about Lily. No flowers, no card, no visit. Just anger that I stopped serving them. That's when I started gathering everything. Bank statements, emails, chat logs. I made a folder titled, "For When They Say I Was Never There." Not because I planned to use it, but because I needed to remember. When you grow up being useful, something dangerous happens. You start thinking being needed means being loved. I used to believe if I gave enough, they'd finally see me. Now I knew better. One night, Lily asked why Nana hadn't come to visit. I told her Nana was busy. She didn't ask again. A week later, my parents stopped contacting me directly. Instead, a friend named Heather sent me a screenshot. It was a public Facebook post from my mom. Some daughters forget their family once they start making money. I pray they remember who raised them before it's too late. The comments were full of relatives I barely knew. Wow. Kids these days. I didn't respond. I sent the post to my lawyer. We had already set up a revocable trust for Lily the year before. The next week, I moved my assets into it. I updated my will, changed my emergency contacts, locked everything down. No one would ever touch what I built, except her. I was done being their backup plan. They just didn't know it yet. 3 months passed. Lily went back to school, laughing again, drawing glitter robots and space whales like nothing ever happened. But I had changed. I stopped checking my phone first thing in the morning. I stopped feeling guilty for ignoring messages. The silence became peaceful. Then came my brother's wedding. Late spring. Destination: lakefront in Michigan. Rustic chic. Paddleboard yoga on the itinerary. I found out through a tagged post. I wasn't invited. Didn't expect to be. What caught my attention was the GoFundMe. Help make our dream honeymoon come true. Goal: $9,000. They already had $4,000. My mom was the top donor, my dad too. Then I saw a comment. "Emily, you better be contributing. You make 6 figures, girl." I didn't reply. I donated 1 cent. Labeled it reimbursement. They deleted it the next day. Point made. The next morning my dad called again. I answered. "What the hell is wrong with you?" He talked for 3 straight minutes. Said I was letting money destroy the family. Said I embarrassed them online. Said my mom cried. Said people were asking why I wasn't at the wedding. Then he added something new. My mom had slipped on ice. Broken her wrist. Needed surgery. They didn't have the money. Insurance was being difficult. Could I help? Just a few thousand. I asked if she was okay. "She will be, but we're stressed. You could fix this." I said I hoped she healed quickly. Then I hung up. He called back 5 minutes later. I blocked him. 2 days later, my brother emailed me. "You're a selfish piece of shit. You don't deserve a family." I didn't respond. I saved it. That's when I made a decision. No more silence. No more fading away. I was going to make it clear. I wasn't going to hover at the edge of their lives anymore. They had forgotten who I was before I became useful. Now they were going to remember. Not with words. With absence. With consequences. With a kind of cold that doesn't thaw. In mid-July, a letter arrived. An actual envelope. My name handwritten on it. I almost didn't open it. Thought it would be another guilt trip. It wasn't. It was from my Aunt Karen, my dad's sister. We hadn't spoken in over a year. She always stayed out of family drama. Inside was a short note. "Hey Em, thought you should know what's going on. You didn't hear it from me." Under it was a printed email. From my mom. Subject: "We have to talk to Emily." It was long. She was asking the family to stage an intervention, saying I was ruining everyone's future by refusing to help. She wrote that my brother was barely surviving financially, that their retirement was at risk, that my behavior was concerning. Then she suggested I might be mentally unstable, and maybe they should consider legal action for financial abandonment. That part made me laugh. Then I saw the attachments. Screenshots of my LinkedIn, old messages where I sent money, travel receipts, emergency transfers. She had saved everything. Not to remember what I did for them, to build a case against me. I didn't feel angry. I felt curious, because they didn't know something. A month earlier, I had changed jobs. Quietly, left my tech firm, joined a startup, lower salary, more equity. I also moved money, shifted savings into custodial accounts under Lily's name. Harder to trace, harder to touch. They thought they knew my finances. They didn't know anything. I texted Karen, "Thank you." Then I opened a folder on my laptop. The exit plan. I'd been working on it for weeks. Updated will, financial breakdown, a letter for Lily when she turns 18. There was one thing left. I opened a new email. To Mom, Dad, Jake. Subject, blank. I see it now. I was never family. I was funding it. You've made it clear who you are. Let me be clear who I am. You will receive nothing. Not now, not ever. This is permanent. I attached a PDF. Every dollar I had ever given. Every flight, every favor, every hospital visit, every bill. I titled it, Return Not Required. Then I hit send. And for the first time, I felt peace. 6 days later, I got a voicemail from a blocked number. 5 words. Dad's been arrested. Call me. I listened 3 times, didn't recognize the voice. I didn't call back. 3 hours later, I got a Google alert. My dad's name. Fraud investigation. I clicked immediately. He had been running a fake consulting business, taking deposits from small companies, never delivering the work. 6 victims so far. 1 was a church. Wire fraud. Misrepresentation. Then I saw it. He had used my name, listed me as his business partner. Director of Finance. Used my LinkedIn photo, made up credentials. All those times he asked me about contracts and startups. It wasn't curiosity. It was research. I didn't call him. I called a lawyer. We filed a cease and desist, drafted a statement. Then I contacted one of the victims, the church, explained everything, sent documents. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. My brother showed up at my door. I don't know how he found my address. Probably Karen. He looked thinner, still wearing his wedding ring. He didn't greet me. They're going to lose the house. I blinked. They used it as collateral. Dad took a private loan. He looked at me like I was his last option. I know we messed up, but this is different. You're not going to let Mom end up homeless. Not a question, a statement, like I was still the same person. I didn't answer. I closed the door. The next day, my mom left a voicemail. No tears, just threats. If I didn't help, she'd go to the press, say I was involved in the fraud, that I benefited from it, that I knew everything. She even mentioned suing me. It was desperate. So I did something cold. I sent her my lawyer's contact and a screenshot of the trust. Then I wrote, "Good luck." 2 hours later, she emailed back. All caps, rage, accusations, a Bible quote about forgiveness. I archived it. Then I went to check on Lily. She was in the living room building a pillow fort. She looked up and smiled. That was my family, the only one that mattered. 2 weeks later, I saw the foreclosure notice. Their house was going to auction, the house I grew up in. I felt nothing, not guilt, not relief, just nothing, like closing a door in a house I no longer belonged to. Later that night, I got a text from an unknown number, a photo, my childhood room, no caption. Hours later, another message. Hope it was worth it. I didn't reply. That was the last time I ever heard from them. The auction went through. My dad was sentenced months later. Probation, community service, restitution. His mugshot was online for a while. My mom moved in with a cousin. My brother and his wife filed for bankruptcy, then quietly divorced. The honeymoon never happened. The family group chat stayed silent. Karen and I still talk sometimes. She sends Lily postcards. I never told my daughter everything, just enough. That not all family lasts forever. That people show you who they are when you stop giving. That you can forgive without reopening the door. Lily's healthy now. Her fever never came back. She's learning piano, obsessed with space, wants to invent machines that help sick kids. I told her she already saved one. We live simply now, just the two of us. Quiet mornings, warm dinners, a home with no expectations attached, and where my parents used to exist. There's no anger anymore, just space, exactly the size of a past I finally left behind.